you're going to need to be able to describe exactly what real estate you're selling. Now, a lot of people are kind of under the misconception that when I sell real estate, my purchase agreement is going to have the address on it, 1295 Smoky Boulevard. Well, that's not technically what you need in a valid purchase agreement. What you need is a real legal description of the property. And as you know, there are really three types of ways that you can legally describe property. And we're going to talk about the most ancient way right now. In fact, it's called metes and bounds. And metes and bounds description, a little history for you, is very prevalent. If you're on the East Coast of the United States and doing real estate, you're going to be dealing with metes and bounds descriptions quite extensively. And as you go west, you're going to get into rectangular government survey or Torrens property descriptions, and those are the two other ways you can describe property. But metes and bounds not only is old and used on the East Coast of the United States, because that's when we first started to describe real estate the way we do today, but metes and bounds goes way older. I mean, to ancient times. Think about it. I'm in times maybe even before there's writing, and I've got to describe a property line with a neighbor. And we both look at each other and say, listen, we need to agree on a property line because we're going to have problems, here. And so I'll tell you what, here's the big boulder sitting up on top of the rocks here. That big boulder will mark our property boundary here along the river. And then my property is going to go up the river all the way up to the huge oak stand up there of oak trees, and then back over here to the bluff, and then all the way along the bluff back down to the big stone building in town that we built, and then it's going to come straight back to this boulder. That's great. Very simple, easy way to describe your property ownership. But as you can imagine, we're a little more detailed today, and you're going to want to understand how to read a metes and bounds description for your clients. And so let's go ahead and take a look at how it's done today, and then we'll cover it just a little bit more once we see the description.
I'm going to explain the metes and bounds method of describing real estate. So we start with a legal description of a lot. Imagine that you're pulling up to a lot with your clients. There's no marked lot lines, but you want to give them a visual representation of the lot that they're going to be purchasing. So in our example, our legal description states that there's a large oak tree. So this is going to be our permanent reference mark. We're going to start here. Using a compass, we're going to walk 152 feet northeast at 80 degrees, and we'll reach our point of beginning. So in this method of describing real estate, you start at the point of beginning, you walk all the way around the lot, and you end at the point of beginning. So in our description, we're going to go southeast at 80 degrees for 180 feet. Then, at 15 degrees southwest, we're going to walk 160 feet. Then, according to our description, we're going southwest 85 degrees for 151 feet. And the last portion says that we go northeast at 4 degrees, 11 minutes, 8 seconds for 199.5 feet. Then we end at our point of beginning. So this gives you a good idea of the size of the lot when all you see is dirt.
Metes and bounds description. Pretty simple. Gotta have a compass, right? You gotta know how to read a compass, what angle, what degrees, what minutes, and what seconds. You gotta have a tape measure if you're gonna tape it off and do it, right? It can be a cumbersome process. And I can tell you this, I've seen some metes and bounds descriptions literally cover 3 pages of information. Very long, because some properties aren't just rectangular in shape or trapezoidal. They're, angles all over the place. And so, as you can imagine, if you're going to be working in an area where it has very extensive metes and bounds descriptions, you're going to want to become very familiar with the tools needed in order to help people understand what it is they're buying. And then once again, that metes and bounds descriptions will need to be provided along with any purchase agreement. So the key about metes and bounds descriptions is you're going to need to make sure you find the reference point. In the video, it was an oak tree. Well, oak trees don't last forever. So a lot of permanent reference points really are permanent reference points. They're stakes driven in, monuments driven into the ground now, so that they don't wash away or burn down. But from that permanent reference mark, you can take the angle and the measure and get to, now this is the most important thing, the point of beginning. And once again, that's the beginning of your property's description. It's not the reference point, that just gets you to the point of beginning. And then in a clockwise fashion, you read that meets and bounds description, you find your other points, and when you find the last point, understand, you go straight back to the point of beginning. So a meets and bounds description begins and ends at the point of what? The point of beginning.